Oh, hey, sister.
Well, good morning. So we're you're live from your bathroom.
From my bathroom because I procrastinated this morning. I for work from home this morning, and yeah, I'm running behind.
It's reality, right? This is real life. This is real. We are not these high-level influencers with tons of followers and tons of airbrushing and all that. We're just real.
I just can't
We're just some
understand.
real sisters from the Midwest.
Real.
We'd like to get real.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna
welcome.
get real today. We didn't even talk about what we're gonna be talking about, but I think we should make this episode. We should just be free because this world is upside down right now.
Well, for the record, listeners, I think we're free in every episode. It's just that sometimes throughout a week, Kara and I, our creative process is this. It's one step. And it's literally like if we message each other or call each other and go, hey, this happened. Let's talk about it on the podcast. That's our process for planning.
So here's the thing. We decided to start recording because I have done makeup tutorials in the past. So I thought I'd just do my makeup while we're podcasting, and
yeah,
I don't even really care.
It's part of who we are, actually, because I actually really need to do, I want to do like an IGTV, or maybe I'll put it out here on YouTube. But I want to do a thing of like my favorite things, because Kara is actually, she's taught me how to do makeup. And also I order certain makeup from her, and then I use a lot of hair care products from my sister-in-law. Shout out to Honey Girl Skincare, based out of Detroit, minority and woman-owned business. She is my go-to for moisturizer and like all natural lotions, and lip glosses as well. So anyways, yeah, we both are really
body butter.
Oh, you got isn't it?
It's so good. This is my third jar.
So what also gives me peace? Wait, you just froze that. Oh, okay. That's okay. It'll be perfect for a thumbnail with the moisturizer. No, so she will be stoked to see that. So we'll tag her and put the website here for y'all too. But it is so good, and it gives me extra peace of mind every time I look at the label on my products from Honey Girl, because here's why. I secretly know that if a child or a dog got into it and somehow ingested it, they wouldn't die. Like, there's literally 6 or 7 ingredients, and they're all like honey, hemp seed oil, like things that you could ingest in your body. And I feel better knowing, because your skin is the body's largest organ, right, Nurse Kara? So everything we put on our body, like a few years ago, I would also share native deodorant because it's all natural. Like, yeah, oh, she's showing it. Yeah. No, I got really into that because Kara knows I had a breast cancer scare. It ended up being a cyst, but like there's certain reasons why I've made shifts, and I know Kara tries to be conscious about it too. But anyways, I'm off on a tangent. We both just like beauty stuff and trying new things. So
yes, I have so much to say.
Wait. But I do want to say welcome. So if you're new here, I always want to welcome people who are new. This is the Sunflower Society podcast. Welcome. If you're just listening, I would suggest for this episode in particular, you go to our YouTube channel, Spiritually Strategic Co., the Gonzalez Sisters, and you could hit subscribe to support us if you'd like. But I would suggest for this episode, like, go over to YouTube and watch if you can, because Kara's definitely doing her full like makeup as well while we talk. So just wanted to welcome.
You get to see my morning face too.
Yeah, welcome. And again, if you're new here, we came up with the concept because a sunflower, right, it produces thousands of seeds, and if even one, spreads and germinates, it has the capacity to produce thousands more. So it was this whole ripple effect idea of how we hope to be an impact on the world, and even just talking with one person can shift so much, for both people involved. So anyways, little background. Okay, go ahead. What are you doing right now? What's under your eyes? What's going on?
Okay, So I just saw on Instagram on this week, Kim K, who has totally ruined everybody's week anyhow, but I'll talk about that in a minute.
Who's Kim K? Do you mean Kim Kardashian West?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You call her Kim K. Okay, I just call her Kim Kardashian.
Okay. So she said this is her trick, but I actually learned this trick through my little beauty group. Because
wait, are you throwing shade at Kim Kardashian?
I don't know if it's her idea.
Let me not say that.
She's claiming it. I don't know. I've been doing it for a long time. I think this is the first time I'm sharing it. This is my palette. I don't want to talk really about my makeup too much. I'm just going to do my makeup other than to show you how to cover under eye circles. So this color right here, Frenchie, this peach color in the middle,
oh, yeah.
I put that underneath and kind of let it cream so it soaks in. And I'm going to do the rest of my makeup. And then I'm going to put concealer over it later. Just a tip, if anybody, because this color corrects for like dark circles, this color.
Oh, wow.
So you're correcting instead of covering.
You never even taught me that trick. You have me out here with dark circles under my eyes. Okay, cool, Kara.
I know. Cool. I keep forgetting.
Kidding.
So what's new?
Wait, okay, so I want to kick off with a different segment. We sometimes do a segment called Favor Fail if we have like favorites or failures that we want to celebrate. And we see failure as a learning opportunity, just a disclaimer. But
hey, 1 second. Do you want me to do my makeup off camera and come on, or do you want me to do my makeup in my camera?
Just do it in the camera while we talk.
Okay.
Yeah, then we can see your progress.
Okay.
And if you want to know anything, just be like, shut up for a minute, Justine. I want to show what I'm doing. Because was a really
what's the shut up sign? What's the shut up sign?
Probably just tell me.
Just this?
Yeah, sure. Just a finger, a pointer. Yeah. To mute me, to quiet me. But I say that, Kara, because that was a really good tip, and I did not know that about the dark circles. Okay, so free tip, guys. That one's free. So I wanted to shift to a different one, and it actually does have to do with what we're talking about right now. It could lead us down some rabbit trails, I guess we'll see. But I wanted to have a segment called Sister Confessions. Like a confessional. So if you know anything about the Catholic tradition, which Kara and I are not part of the Catholic tradition, although we both enjoy attending Mass. But if you know anything about the Catholic tradition, you can go to confession, right? And I think I've never actually gone to confession. Have you?
No.
Yeah, I think, and I'm literally going off of movies, so please, Catholic listeners, please feel free to comment below and correct us. But, you go into the confessional booth, there's a partition with the priest, and, you say, "Forgive me, Father, for I've sinned." That's how I've seen it portrayed, right, on movies and TV. But I don't know for certain if that's actually what happens. I mean, even nowadays, right, like millennial priests, for example, would it be like more relaxed and like, "Hey, just call me friend"? Like what?
I'm sorry, but would it be weird to have a kid that's like 25 years old as a priest? I feel like that would be really weird.
Wait, what do you mean, a kid?
I mean,
have a 25-year-old be a
to me, that's kind of a kid, yeah. Yeah. To have to confess to a 25-year-old?
I mean, we entrust 25-year-olds to be teachers and nurses and, like, care for people's lives.
That's true. I just feel like it would be funny to, like, I guess you don't really look
to see like a really, it's what you're really trying to say. It would be funny to see a really young, hot, buff priest.
That is exactly what I was thinking, but I didn't really want to say that.
Well, we're in the confessional, listeners.
Then I would just
now we know it's fantasy.
Then I would just be sad. for all the
Then
women
you would be embarrassed to confess.
no, I would just, I don't know. I would feel bad.
Oh,
I would
okay.
feel bad about myself the whole time.
I wanna open up the confession time because so about a year or so ago when we've had our podcast about a year and a half. And so when that all started, I think we both were starting to watch YouTube a bit more. I was never big on YouTube other than like maybe searching for like some TED Talks for PDs that I was doing or anything like that. And especially with the pandemic, right? More people than ever are streaming at home from different platforms, whether it's Patreon or YouTube, Netflix, Prime, Hulu, all these different streaming networks that really, quite frankly, they're becoming the new way of consuming entertainment and content. And getting the news, right? Like that's where I've even been watching the election, like live stuff is from YouTube because I don't have regular TV channels. So anyways, I think that's becoming more and more common. And about a year ago, Kara, because she's very much into beauty and makeup, more so than me even, I love all that stuff, but she's always been into makeup. And she was telling me about all this drama between beauty influencers. And I was like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not going to spend time watching that stuff. I don't get it. And I didn't understand the draw. Well, about a week ago, I was going
Justine got really sad.
Yeah, I was going through really emotionally, like legitimately, Kara knows I had some very emotionally intense days. We both have. And it was also Mercury retrograde. We actually talked about that in our last episode. So be sure to listen to episode 47 if you haven't. We talk about the zodiac, Mercury retrograde, and the Enneagram. But I got sucked into a really dark hole. And it all started with, what is that? Let me see it.
It's my airspun powder. I just use a little tiny bit underneath my eyes. Sorry.
Is that, what brand is that?
Airspun. It's an old brand.
Airspun. I thought I remember
1935.
back in the day, like being at the drugstore. Okay.
1935 is when it was established.
Cool.
So all the beautiful old ladies in the 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s have been using this. Think about that. Go ahead. Onward.
So it all started with a little podcast called H3. If you never watched H3, it's pretty entertaining. Husband and wife, Ethan and Ela Klein. Go check it out. But I got started watching there. Then they interview some very interesting different influencers in particular. And so then I got hooked on the show Frenemies that Ethan started doing with Trisha Paytas. And Trisha Paytas is actually in, she's like, if you've ever heard of OnlyFans, she's more in kind of the realm of like boudoir and sex type stuff. So they interview her. She ends up dating Ela's brother, and she has been for a while now. And then her and Ethan started a new podcast called Frenemies recently. So I'm explaining my thought process, listeners, and some of you will probably be like, yeah, that's why you need to watch The Social Dilemma, Justine. They just sucked you in with everything. And I know, I'm fully aware of that, okay, listeners? Like, don't worry about me. I am fully aware. Like, I was totally there for it. I was distracting myself with content that really didn't always require me to think that deeply. So then after going down the Trisha Paytas route and being fascinated by just some of her, like, just her life kind of, then I start watching some of her videos because she's pals with Jeffree Star and James Charles. So, of course, I just got in. It's just this whole maze. So I'm saying all that in confessional to say I now understand why you got sucked into the drama, and I was wrong. Forgive me, sister.
Or you have sinned. No, it really is. I don't want to make it sound like, though, I don't want to minimize the fact that it is very, like, specific to a specific, like, if you're offended at what we talk about, you should not watch it. Or if you're, like, even, like, closely, remotely triggered by what we talk about.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, there's just a lot of things in it that, there's a lot of swearing, first of all, so if that bothers you, don't watch it. But also, content-wise, I mean, especially Trisha Paytas, she's a very controversial person, and she is like a character or a caricature of.
She is.
She's a personality, and so she does a lot of over-the-top stuff that is not like she does.
She's
stuff
also been
intentionally to get attention, and she says that she does. So it could be very, very toxic. Yeah, it can be very toxic, but anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for confessing.
Yeah. Do you have anything to confess?
I feel like I actually thought about something the other day. I was like, I need to talk about this because it was like embarrassing, but also something probably other people go through.
Did it have to do with you taking Bragg's apple cider vinegar?
No, nothing embarrassing has happened from that yet. Not in public anyway. I did want to tell you guys another trick. So I put that powder a little bit on my eyelids, and I'm going to use my contour right here, and I'm going to use this kind of fluffy brush, and I'm just going to, like, since I don't want to wear a ton of eye makeup today, I'm just going to put like a little bit of a shadow on without using actual eyeshadow. So you have like a matte finish on your eyelid, which is just very natural looking, but then you have a little bit of dimension to your face. Sorry, but I thought that was a cool trick too. That's not my original trick. Yeah. Oh. Okay. So.
Dimension. Hey, can you name what movie this is from? Like, look at my shirt and then name what movie I'm quoting. Okay, look at my shirt.
Okay, ruffles.
Puffed sleeves.
Anna Gables. I didn't even need to like hear you say the first two words. Yeah.
A dress with puffed sleeves.
Diana, you're my kindred spirit. I told that to somebody on Instagram the other day. Because I seriously found like my doppelganger / she loves the same things that I love.
Who is it?
Actually, she's not really my doppelganger. It's just my spirit doppelganger. Like, she loves, literally, her bio is almost the same as mine. Yeah. So, my spirit doppelganger. Yeah.
So,
let me think. I know for sure there was something that happened this week where I was ready to, I should have written it down.
Is that your setting spray?
Yeah.
I also use that, listeners. It's a great, you can actually order it from Kara. It's a mascara beauty product. But it just sets your makeup, and then Oh,
do you know that they're changing the name of my makeup company?
What are they changing it to?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say yet. I actually need to look. But it's gonna be very like different branding, which I love, but I don't really know why type of thing. But I'll make an announcement soon, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. Well, so let's talk a bit about Dear Blabby. I only want to talk very briefly because I want to pique your all's interests. So Kara and I, if you don't know, we've said it a couple times, and we shared in our last episode, we are working on a project called Dear Blabby. It will only be available on Patreon. So it'll be just kind of pick and choose pay per episode type thing, or you can subscribe. Haven't worked out the details, but that's where it'll be available. However, currently we are taking submissions, your question submissions for the first episode and the episodes beyond, right? So if we can't get to yours in the first episode because we are getting submissions in, we will try to in the future. And so it's kind of this combination of, you know, we grew up mainly in the 90s. And during that era, you had shows like Ricky Lake, Sally Jesse, Oprah. Excuse me. Like you had this era where people could listen to other people's stories in that way. That's how they were able to see, okay, I'm not alone, right? Like somebody else has this issue and they're just willing to come on the show and talk about it. So I think what that did for, especially like in America, I think that actually, it gave people like a connection that they weren't alone, right? And I think that that's kind of what YouTube has started to shift into, or the different projects that you see on Patreon. Do laundry much, Kara? Oh my.
That's my confession.
We are so opposite. Thank you for making that confession. And again, if you're listening, you will want to go to YouTube and see what Kara just showed. And especially if you're a person who's behind on laundry or house chores, like definitely go because you'll feel better. No. But I think it's exactly what you just demonstrated. That's what those shows did, was it was a way for people to I don't feel like therapy used to be near as mainstream as it is now. I think it's more acceptable culturally. In the United States. In a lot of other countries, it's always been acceptable. And it's just a part of cultural norms. Like it's not a taboo thing, but I still think because this is just my own opinion. I think because in the States, we are definitely, there are Christian norms in place. I'm not saying beliefs, I'm saying norms, Christianese norms. And I think with that being said, because of that influence in America, whether people are Christian or not, because of that influence culturally in America, that's why therapy has been seen as taboo, because you're weak or you're not strong or you don't trust God if you go to a therapist, right? That's just my own 2 cents on that. But I think those shows allowed for people to not have to go to a therapist and like, oh, okay, but I can see this total, like this situation of an affair on Oprah. But then you knew there were, hundreds, thousands of people across the country who, no, they weren't on Oprah, but they were going through that same thing. They weren't on Dr. Phil, but they were going through that same thing. So anyways, all that to say, we love shows like that. But then we also used to love to read a newspaper column called Dear Abby, and people would write in, they wouldn't share their identity, and she would write back to them and say, hey, here's what I would suggest. Remember XYZ. So I'm just going to share a preview, though, a sneak peek of one of the submissions. Hopefully, listeners, then you will go. We'll put the link in the show notes. You can also go to, I believe it is, I don't know. What is the direct link? It's a bit.ly link. So that's a shortened length, bit.ly /
Let me look real quick.
Yeah, to our direct form. I'm trying to pull it up for you all.
It is, oh no, it's, no, you'll need to include it in the show notes and on YouTube in the show notes.
It's
kind of long.
It's Dear Blabby Questions. Yeah. So if you're familiar with bit.ly, or you just type in bit.ly and then a / just put in Dear Blabby Questions. It'll go straight to our form where you can submit your questions.
Oh, I don't think I have that link.
No, I do. I just got it from our messages where I sent it to you. I gave you a direct one so that if you put the link like in your bio on Instagram or whatever, it'll just go straight to our form. And you can submit your questions. I'll resend it right now, Kara. But yeah, so it's literally you type in a situation and then you come up with your handle, meaning it could be like confused in California. But I am going to read one that we've gotten. So keep the submissions coming. Again, if we don't get to them in the initial shows that we are producing, then we will get to them. completely secure. You are not submitting your identity. We have no way of knowing who's submitted these.
Oh, also, I was going to add to this, like, if you don't necessarily know if you have a question, but you want to, like, interact and you want to, like, have input onto what you would like to see in the show, or maybe, like, what kind of set you think we should have, because we're going to have a very specific, like, setup when we do, probably a little bit fancier than our podcast.
Oh, yeah. I'm literally
let us
sitting
know.
on my
I want to
living
hear
room
your
floor.
thoughts. You guys that have been listening to us for a while know us for what we've done already. And so I think that would be good insight for us to have as to what direction you'd like to see us take.
Good point, Kara. Good point. All right, but we're going to give you a sneak peek right now. So if you're listening, this is the first time that we've unveiled one of the submissions, just to give you an idea of the type of things that we might tackle. And so that maybe if you're on the fence of like, well, I don't want to do that, that's too deep of a question. So this first submission we got actually comes to us from Trinidad, and it's a love triangle. And so I don't think I should read it though. I think we need to save it for the show. But it is a love triangle, and it's quite fascinating. Do you think I should read it?
I think no, go ahead and read it. I think we should preview. Yeah. What this
kind of the question we're getting.
But also, no, it doesn't have to be anything to do with love life or any of that. Like, it just has.
We got a question about Chub Rub, listeners. We also have a question about Chub Rub. So they can really be anything. And actually, we would prefer that. In every episode, it could be like some funny, some serious. But it's funny, but at the same time, like, I actually have that issue. I've had that issue since I was a kid. So like that's a legit issue. And I have had multiple different remedies over the years because I've been a runner or I played sports. Like, legitimately, that's a true issue though too. And you all know my background's in education and now specialize in cultural psychology and communications. Kara, nursing, adult education, like all the things. So we both, especially with her medical background, there are a lot of questions that I ask her. Maybe we should also have confessional, and I'll tell them how you gave me surgery. I've never told that story. Maybe we'll come back.
Don't say surgery. Now I'm gonna get
not really surgery. No, it wasn't surgery. I just joked that it was because, well, we might circle the wagon back to see how I feel about that. But okay, I'll read it so people can get an idea, right, of some of the different submissions we've received. So this says, I'm stuck in a love triangle. I'm dating someone that outright told me that he's seeing someone else and cares about her deeply. He said it doesn't discount his feelings for me, though. It's just a different vibe. It's perplexing because he spends tons of time with me and he puts all his attention into me. I need help. I'm stuck in a love triangle in Trinidad. So
I wonder how much time, like, is she saying like he's spending like all the time with her rather than the other person, and maybe he's transitioning to her as his new relationship, or like, I would be curious if he's like trying to get or end the other relationship somehow. I don't know. I'd just be curious.
But that's exactly precisely. We will try to explore all the different possibilities there on the show, right? And it's the same thing even with the Chub Rub question. I might have some remedies and Kara might have some remedies, but part of that.
Oh, we weren't going to answer the question today?
No,
I thought we were going to answer.
That's for the first episode, baby.
I thought we were giving them a sneak peek of our analysis. No? Okay.
I don't know. Should we?
Maybe we should make up a different question ourselves and not share actual. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Up to you. I'll talk about it.
Go ahead. We'll talk about it some. Yeah. But this is the type of thing that we want you to go submit whatever. So keep them coming, and then we'll select different ones for each show that we record for Patreon. But yeah, this is just kind of a sneak peek. Well, yeah, let's go there. What made you say that?
Well, just because if they all mutually know about each other and they're all good with it, like, I just think there are probably, thinking back to my dating life, there are probably different stages of relationships, because certainly not everybody that I dated, I thought I was going to marry. I mean, I know a lot of people do date with that intention, but I didn't. I didn't. So that was never like, sometimes I feel like there is that period of like, you
Transition.
really care about this person a lot, but there's something that's making you not want to commit to them for some reason, and you can feel that even if you won't say it out loud. But I do think that there is that period where things are good and things are still fun and things like that, but you really in your heart of hearts know this is not like the person you want to spend your life with. And maybe that just causes you to be open to newer things when they come along. Or I'm trying to think about it from his perspective and what I might be thinking if I were him, but I'm also not a man, so I'm not sure if this is one of those things where he sounds like he's a caring person and that he's being very honest with her, so
I
that is
appreciate
that.
his honesty.
Yeah.
I
um
appreciate his honesty that he was upfront with her, and
it kind of sounds like she wants maybe a little bit more commitment from him at this point, and maybe that's why the question came up. Maybe they're getting to that certain point where she's like, okay, it was okay at first to know that there's another girl, but like, when's he going to be able to totally focus on me? So
right.
I think I would just be honest with him and let him know what you need. And if he's not the person to give it to you, then you have to decide if you just want to have a casual relationship with him and, get to know him for who he is. Like, there's plenty of people that I dated that I was probably a lot more just friends with than anything else. It was fun to hang out. I don't know.
Do you think that that's okay to have that approach? So I had a friend who used to always say, he's fine to just pass the time with. And I always thought that I personally, this is just my perspective, I always thought that was really mean, because I don't want to like take advantage of somebody for my own purposes, quote unquote, just to pass the time, because it was also a person where she knew like those men would do anything for her.
No,
She's a former friend. I'll put it that way, listeners.
that's not.
But she knew the power that she could wield over them, essentially.
No, that's
Yeah.
very manipulative.
And that's
I'm talking about,
okay.
no, where it's mutually like, hey, we're getting to know each other, and
We're just in that zone where we're not because I will say, like, for me in my current relationship, which I have been in for about 6 years, I even say about 6 years because we met 7 years ago, actually, almost exactly 7 years ago. But the whole first year, I never said we were anything, and he knows this, we both did, but I never said we were anything or even called him my man, until he introduced me as his lady. So
mm-hmm.
I didn't take any indication of that or try to like that was, yes, I wanted more and he knew I wanted more, but I still had to keep my mind in a space of I'll be open to other things until he makes that decision, because that was important for me personally to be pursued. I'm not saying that that's important for every woman.
Yeah.
Sometimes a woman is the one who asks out a man or whatever, and that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just know for myself and my past, I needed to know that that person took that initiative and pursued me, and
Yeah.
for my self-worth, and especially where it was at that time. I needed to feel that way.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think about the other angles here, though.
I
Like,
just think
let's talk about that, though, because there are many. Let's talk about, we're talking about male and female relationships in particular, because that's what we're familiar with. And this is a male female relationship. So I'm just trying, like, one of the questions that comes to mind for me is this a person who's okay with ultimatums? Because I know many people, men and women, who give ultimatums in relationships, or if they're ready to take to the next level or whatever, their way of telling someone what they need is to give an ultimatum, which I know sounds really harsh, but like, I know a lot of people who operate that way. What do you
If you
think
have to
about
tell,
ultimatums?
if you have to tell somebody how to feel about you, then it's not ever going to be real to you. And you're always going to know in the back of your head that, oh, well, the only reason they're doing this is because I told them they had to do it. There's
Right.
always going to be some
Right.
resentment there. So no, absolutely. I don't ever think you should. Have I done it? Sure. But do I think you should
Me
do it?
too. Am I with
No.
those people?
No.
um okay, so ultimatum is out of the question. um and I don't get the impression.
I think in relationship
He
we
said,
operate.
I mean, the whoever wrote this literally said it's just a different vibe. It's perplexing because he spends most of his time with me and puts all of his attention into me.
There are some people though that, and I don't have this in my relationship, and I don't know if you do, but there are plenty of people out there who find themselves drawn to more than one person. Like it's called polyamory, right? I think.
What is it called when so many people are drawn to you? I'm just kidding.
Narcissism.
I'm kidding. No, but Kara does know. Like, she even comments sometimes when people look at me in public, or they're like, and this happened a few weeks ago or last time I was visiting, and you're like, do you know that waitress? And I said, no. No, I have a positive aura. Like, what
You do.
I mean,
You
I
do.
think I attract just good energy from people.
I don't, because I'm scared of people and I act scared of people.
I don't think that that's true.
It is true. If I feel
Not
off
in the
my
workplace,
spirit,
not in your professional life. No.
no. But that's not actually like, to me, that is, I don't go deep. I don't let my emotion or go deep with people at work necessarily, unless they're a friend outside of work too.
Right.
I can be very professional and bubbly and nice, but it's not like, it's a professional thing. Like, it's not necessarily, I don't know how you explain that. It's a different space to operate in, I guess, than normal, when I'm like actually vulnerable and emotional with people.
Well,
Yeah.
let's go back to your initial question. Sorry, I just was making a joke, but to be truthful, you're exactly right. That is a thing where there are people who they do not want to be committed to one person, and they really just have a lot of love to give. So it could be a situation where, if love triangle in Trinidad, if you end up realizing you're completely okay with him being with two people, and you're okay with that, then that could be a thing. But it would depend, right? If she's seeking marriage, or if she's seeking a long-term commitment in partnership with him. So, I mean, I keep going back to that first line where it says, dating someone that outright told me he's seeing someone else and cares about her deeply.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I respect that, but I also know, like she says, it's just a different vibe. So I get the impression she's saying, I just feel in limbo and I don't like that feeling.
I think it's like, she almost, to me, in certain ways, like, I could look at it like, she sounds like she's okay with it. It's just a different vibe for her in her life. And she wants somebody maybe to say, like, it's okay to, like, you're not doing anything wrong. And I don't think, like, she is doing anything wrong. As long as everybody is aware and she's sure that the other woman is aware, then I don't see, that's their relationship and that's their thing. But maybe in her life in the past, that's been a hang up or something that she didn't understand until now. That's okay.
Right.
That's
Right.
know.
Well, it's good learning. I mean,
Yeah.
as tough as that is, but then I will also say it's tough to be out in the world dating. It's not easy. And it's like a it can be like a roller coaster because you get all excited in the beginning about somebody, and you quickly, right? You quickly again and again and again kind of go through this cycle. If you're a person who's dated as an adult, you go through that cycle so many times that it becomes exhausting. And
I
that's
wonder.
why I think sometimes when you're in that phase of your life, or in a phase where you just are deciding to date more, that can be emotionally exhausting because you're also learning so much about what you do and you don't want, and also what you're willing to settle for. And I say that in the most positive way possible, because the reality is each of us as humans has baggage. So when you are deciding to be with somebody, you're also saying, I can also deal with this luggage that they have in their trunk.
Yep.
Like and what are you willing to deal with? So the other advising I would have would be keep the communication lines direct and clear. Be upfront about what you need. And even if you're just adjusting to being in that vibe of being in limbo, if you really care about the person and he really does in fact care about you and is investing time in you, and maybe you do want something more in the future, if that's meant to be, what's for you is for you. And that will become more and more apparent over time, because that feeling and perhaps love will grow for you, Trinidad. So I mean, and then that other person who maybe he still deeply cares for now, that she might not be in the picture anymore. She or he might not be in the picture anymore. I get the impression it's another female. I think
But I would also add to that, like, if in the future you don't, like, if you see yourself settling down with somebody for life and that's your intention, like, I would make sure before you go any further that that is his intention as well in some way, because not that you have to be in that space right now, but to ensure for your sake later on, if that's something that you want, he's not the kind of person that's like always going to be open to other people, you know,
Right.
or if that's just a season or just a circumstance for right now, you know.
Yeah, no, it is another female. So that's the other thing to consider too, is, I mean, there is another person involved, and it begs the question, what comes up for me is, does the other person that he outright told her that it's somebody that he's seeing and cares about deeply, does
No.
that female know
Mhm.
about love
Yeah,
triangle in Trinidad?
that'll give you your answer real quick.
So,
Yeah,
okay. Well, that was
that's
juicy.
a good one.
I mean, do you want to address the question about chub rub?
I mean, I had a friend that told me to use deodorant and it works. Yeah.
That's the best remedy I found. I used to use mom used to have me use baby powder when I was young. Like,
That seems like it would like wear off pretty quick, does
it
it?
it does.
Yeah.
So,
Deodorant really doesn't. If you think about it being under
no.
your pillow all day,
No, I as an adult, that's what I've resorted to with, like, if I wear dresses and it's super hot. It's usually just if it's super hot someplace, or like, for example, if I'm going to be walking around Miami and it's like 95 degrees and I'm wearing a dress,
yeah.
yeah, I don't that after a day of that, I would have like a heat rash between my thighs. So,
Yeah.
not cute. Um, okay. Well, since we're talking about thighs, let me circle back. I will spill the coffee. I'm gonna change the phrase to spill the coffee. Um, not it wasn't a surgery,
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
but it was an operation of sorts.
Yeah.
So this is relevant because it did have to do with initial chub rub, I think.
Mhm.
Or it could have been an ingrown hair. I don't know. What do you think to this day? I mean, how could you forget what it looked like?
I will never forget.
Well, if you won't ever forget, I will never forget. You can bet on that. So it was actually the day of our brother's wedding too, wasn't it? Or like
Yeah, you
the
were
day
in
before.
pain. Yeah, you were in pain.
Yeah, I was in a lot of pain, and I had a small boil on my inner thigh, or whatever you call it. A lot of people think that's gross, and they're like, no, it's just an ingrown hair. Like, no, that's a boil. um I mean, and they're produced from the same things, right? Tell me if I'm medically wrong on this, but I don't know why. Maybe this is good because we'll take the stigma out of boils.
Is there a
Erase
stigma
the
to getting a
stigma.
boil? I think it was probably not an ingrown hair, because an ingrown hair usually is still significantly painful and bigger than normal, but
I think I
a
get
cyst or a
boiled.
boil is like something that like is infecting
Yeah.
into the pore, and it's filling up with fluid, and yeah.
So I got my first boil, I think, when I was like 22. For some reason, between, I want to say 22 and 27. And I shouldn't even say for some reason. When I look back at like the stress and trauma in my life those years, it makes sense. Like, I have different reactions in my body. And at this point, I know my body well enough to know, like, oh, I ate too much sugar, or it's stress related, or like usually I can tie it back to stress or diet. And both are, impact each other, obviously, and how your body hangs on to things. Which is why, Kara and I are so big on your personal development and growth, your spiritual walk, all those pieces. And we talk about it a lot in our own growth in those areas. So, yeah, so it had started probably like a week before, and I had tried to release it because it wasn't my first time having a boil. And they would be on my inner thighs because it's summertime. I was hot. I was also like walking or jogging, all the things, right? So it was a perfect storm because it was super, super hot in July, and we were going to be outdoors at a wedding for our brother was getting married. And yeah, so it kept growing and growing to the point where then, honestly, it was probably like the size of a baseball. Like,
It was not that big.
okay, a golf ball.
Urban legend.
It was huge to me. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
so it was protruding. It was affecting even walking. Like,
I can tell you it wasn't as exciting as I had anticipated.
no, not for Kara. In the later days, it would be for me. I mean, but we also get into things like Dr. Pimple Popper. So, um, so I mean, it was hurting so bad, like nothing was working. No. And believe me, I know all the tricks, like, of what you're supposed to use and the different remedies that actually usually work and help it come out, and release and drain. And none of it was working. And so I showed her and I don't even remember your reaction, but I know you were like, oh, no, that's not okay. And I was like, should I go? Like, because I knew another teacher, actually, one of my grade level partners. She like went to the doctor and everything. And when she described it to me afterwards, I wanted to be like, girl, that was just a boil. Why didn't you just release that at home? But she like took off work and everything. It was like this big thing. But I know that a lot of people actually legit go to the ER or to the doctor.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. And so I was like, I don't think that's necessary. That's the thing. I had always taken care of anything with my body related to a boil. And so that's why this was kind of an anomaly. Like, then Kara was my last resort, and I had to be like, look at this on my thigh.
Well, you didn't even have a doctor in town. Like, you were out of, yeah.
No, I was at your house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, well, should I go to the ER? She's like, they're not really going to do anything that like you've helped doctors do that, basically. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, now I should go.
I've assisted in many, they're called I&D, so incision and drainage. What I did on you that day, though, was not what a doctor would do on you at the hospital. Let me just clarify, because it wasn't
people of the internet what
that bad.
people on the fine internet what you did to me.
I poked it and killed the beast.
Yeah, we got a needle.
Soak it, poke it, squeeze it.
We just went to CVS and got a needle, right?
I can't remember anymore.
Yeah, I think we went to CVS and got like an actual needle, and then
yeah.
Because you can get them in like by the diabetic stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we got a needle.
No, I think I don't know. I think I had something in my cupboard that I sterilized.
I know
possibly.
you sterilized something. And then Mom was also there too. I don't even remember why we were all at your house when it was Paul's wedding the next day. I think Paul's wedding was the next day. Anyways, then my mom was like, well, should you have something? So I took a shot of Jack Daniels, and I was biting on a towel. So
laying on the kitchen floor.
And I was laying on Kara's kitchen floor because I guess that just made sense.
I think it was because if it made a mess or something, I didn't want to on my carpet.
Then it wouldn't be on the But I literally sprawled out on the kitchen floor, and Kara dabs it. And we were thinking that it was going to be this big release. And initially it was just like blood.
Yeah.
But then she literally stuffed the wound with gauze. So there's like gauze inside my leg. And then we wrap it around because the next day was the wedding. And so my whole like leg was wrapped underneath the dress.
You make it sound very dramatic, but
was.
I didn't.
Kara, when I pulled out, I know it actually wasn't that big of a hole, but it was strange because I had never experienced something like that. And so when I pulled out the gauze, even like a day later, like I literally had to pull it out from inside me because you had packed the wound. And so I just had never.
I don't remember packing anything in there. I remember putting like the gauze on top of it.
You might not, but you did.
I don't think I did that.
It was.
I think I put
and when I had to pull it out when I was back at my apartment in Indianapolis, and then it had started draining, and so that's why I say the couple days after, I could literally press on, like, if this is my thigh skin right here in the spot, and this is the boil in the center, I could be like, and it would just yeah.
Well, if it was packed in there, that was not intentional. I don't know if it just like
okay, doctor
worked this way.
No, it might have because of the way we wrapped it or something.
Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, it was good. It wasn't bleeding everywhere, and that's what we needed to not have happen at the wedding. And you were also pregnant at the time. Whew,
yeah,
that was a strange. That was a strange series of events.
That was. Oh, and that's when I had I was pregnant with Olivia.
Bleeding, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had a park like out in a field for my brother's wedding. I mean, no hate, no shade. It's not anybody's fault, but just I had my littlest with me who could barely walk, and then I had a baby in a baby carrier, and I'm pregnant with Olivia. And I had to carry this baby all the way across the field because my husband was meeting me at the wedding because he was working that day. And then the very next day, I went to work and just like, it was a very nerve-wracking time. Yeah. I had a small placental, did they call it an abruption? I can't remember if they did or not.
Boils and babies.
Boils and babies.
Yeah, comment below if you've ever had a boil or have a question about one if you're watching on YouTube.
I do not recommend that you do that at home.
No, this is not a recommendation.
Circumstance, unless you have a family member that you trust, and that's their choice. But
this is literally me sharing my wounds. Literally, I have a small
literal wound.
It's teeny tiny, the scar, but I do make a big deal. Even if I'm in a swimsuit or I happen to be around Kara and my thigh is out for some reason, I have on shorts or something, then I'll be like, "Here's where you scarred me."
Hey, I guess I should have been a surgeon. That is the
No,
wrong
it actually,
deal.
I mean, considering how big it had gotten, like considering that, it's actually a very, very tiny scar. But I also have big
I need to
thighs.
figure out a charger of some sort. Oh no. I think I'm gonna have to, hold on. We'll have to adjust. One moment.
Well,
You can keep talking about
would you,
something other than
yeah,
boils.
would you have any, I guess advice for, um, you know, we're in the thick of all the counting of votes, right? And our election in the United States as we're recording this. So would you have any advising for people? And I don't want to get too deep into even like the political party stuff and all that. It's just, would you have advising for people after we see the final outcome of everything with this election? I have thoughts, but I wanted to ask you first.
Um, I don't want to see people like, my dog's walking around. Sorry, you can hear his click clack in the background. I don't want to see people obviously resort to violence, which in some areas that's happening quite a bit.
Hera, you're picking. Oh, no, now you're unfrozen.
Ugh.
You're fine.
Hold on. I think when I moved downstairs, it affected it, unfortunately, but I have to charge my phone. So I think like, I don't obviously want to see people resorting to violence on either side. And I don't like the rhetoric right now that's going around about the outcome being unfair or whatever. I like everything to me, as long as it's done legally and by the process that we normally use, like we kind of have to concede to whatever happens one way or the other. And I think that we have to be very diligent about how we frame the things that we say regarding the election, because if this is considered unfair or that people cheated or whatever, and there's actually no burden of proof there, then we're just going to remain a divided nation. If there is proof there, by all means, that should be addressed. But if there's no proof there and we're able to move along as we always have legally under our legal system, I think we have to start to work towards healing and reconciliation, because I do think there's such a deep, deep pain in between two very, very different ways of living. And I think that I just feel for myself, I've felt like there's one side of the spectrum that feels like they want to be all inclusive and kind of hear everybody's voices. And then there's another side of the spectrum that is very comfortable with their way of life and doesn't want to have to listen to what other people are going through. That's how I feel. And I know that's very subjective, and I know not everybody will agree with that, but I feel like we have to do more to try to understand each other. Because for me, I used to be in that mindset more. I don't think I've ever fully embraced that mindset, obviously, because I believe what I believe today. So it's been kind of a spectrum, but I don't understand the mindset of always wanting things to stay the same. So that's hard. That's hard for me. I think we have to, as people in general, understand that things will change and that we need to do the best in every moment to represent either the God that we serve or whatever pushes us forward in life. And by staying the same, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing that or accomplishing that. One does not equal the other.
Well, I think it also goes back to being in the present moment. I like what you said about the divides, because when you talk about how different camps of people think, a lot of times, if you really dig a lot deeper, it's not based on political party. It goes down to class race, and ethnicity usually. Like those are usually still the dividing factors. And we know without a shadow of a doubt, regardless of who's in office and who has been in office, America in period has a long way to go with how we build bridges across different communities, racial lines, ethnic lines, class, socioeconomic class. We have a long way to go with effectively bringing communities together. That would be my thought, because that's the other reality, right? Like I think it's easy to, I heard somebody put it this way. It's easy to get caught up in rhetoric, no matter what political party it is. It's easy to get caught up in that. And often that rhetoric is designed to get people operating in a very primal level. Primal meaning, I'm angry, I react, I feel this way, instead of actually pausing, taking a breath, and examining the present moment. So part of even what you're speaking to is those adjustments. And sometimes, even though, yes, for many humans, change is hard. Some humans are wired to love change. I'm one of those humans. I like new challenges. I like changes.
Same.
But if you're not a person like that, that's okay. But that just means you have to work harder to be present in the moment and in the moment of how God is speaking to you. So those two things you said about not only being guided by God solely, but also being in the present moment and in the present time that we live in. And we have to ask ourselves, when we are clinging on to something and we don't want something to change, we do have to ask ourselves, well, why am I so against XYZ changing, whatever it is? And usually that goes to how we operate in our personal beliefs and our personal lives. What would you say about that?
What do you think about the fact? What do you think about the fact that we've somehow looped Christianity into our politics? I think that goes along with what you're saying deeply, because when I think of the divide that's happening right now, it feels like people are using God as an excuse to not listen to each other.
How so? Can you give an example?
Yeah, I mean, just in regards to even race relations across the country, there's a certain portion of our country that just doesn't believe in the experience of Black and brown people.
Carrie, you're frozen again.
Oh, brother. Am I back?
No, you're still frozen. It's a great freeze. You look good, but you're still frozen.
Can you hear me though?
Yeah.
Let me switch networks. Hold on.
Beep boop beep up.
Oh, I can hear you now. Boop,
Hang
boop.
on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I could always hear you. Hang on.
Oh, it's not garbled or anything?
No. Hang on, viewers and listeners. She has to go out back and crank up the old internet. With a little
Yeah, I live in the
thing.
country.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Should I just keep talking and let myself be frozen?
Yeah, that's fine.
Or should I try?
It's just an all black
Should
screen.
I try harder?
I would love to see your face. Try harder, please. I think our listeners, our viewers would too. But you said there are people who just don't believe that other experiences exist. I don't know if I completely agree with you on that, because I don't think it's an unrecognition that there's a difference of livelihood that exists, right? Whether that's economic, the treatment of people, microaggressions, bias, etc., how things are designed, from systemic racism. like, I don't know that I don't know that I've even experienced overt denial of like, oh, that's not true, or that just didn't
I have.
happen. Okay.
I have. Yeah.
Well, let me play devil's advocate still though, because if you are in the camp, like I want to speak to the camp of people or listeners who say, no, I fully recognize that. I fully understand that. I just think we got to get over it. We got to get over it. So what that proposal then is saying is, well, we do want to jump to reconciliation and healing, but the problematic thing becomes then people don't want to sit in the uncomfortable truth. Right? It's like if somebody says, well, I read How to Be an Anti-Racist, and wow, I realized this and that about myself. And that can all be true and that can be good. But then how did that change how you operate in your life and how you treat people and how you listen to people and understand them?
Right. And also, how did it change your vote and your political viewpoints? Like the issue that I think we face is more misinformation and disinformation than anything else, because I think there are plenty of people that could be convinced that certain issues in our country and the things that we face are not good. But because there's so much misinformation, disinformation, and a general mistrust of the things we've always trusted, like mainstream media, and there's all these offshoots of people saying whatever they want to say, essentially, or have whatever narrative they want to have, and there are people that perpetuate it and share it to all their friends, then we have a problem, because we're not willing to examine all sides. And have I exposed myself to different sides this entire election season? Certainly. You should look at multiple sources, multiple points of view. But I think where we get stuck is this idea that we don't want to change, or at least some people in our country don't want change because their life as they live it is, in their opinion, that's exactly what the American dream is.
That's ego though. So people who live in the past, or even like, so I'll give an example, a person who talks about their glory days in high school athletics and they're like 40. That's ego. A person who holds on to the past and operates off of who they were or who they believed they were, that's ego. Okay. And if you operate like, oh, that was just the greatest time of my life, that's ego. And where there's ego present, ego can lie to you about a lot of things. And then people who only focus on the future and thinking that they have some control, that's about control, right? So people who then are only ever focused. And so I want to share a couple powerful quotes, and I've talked about him before on the podcast, but The Power of Now is an incredible book, probably in my top 10 of all time favorite books, by Eckhart Tolle. It's called The Power of Now. And if you like Audible or you don't prefer to read, he reads it on Audible, and his voice is like the most calming, soothing thing ever. And it's perfect for the topic. So if you're looking for like something calm and like that kind of helps you think differently, it's very deep, very much about the subconscious and how you see yourself. But he says, I want to quote two different things from that, from him as a teacher, because he's considered a spiritual teacher. He says, realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. And then he also says, where there is anger, there is always pain underneath. And one of the things I am trying very adamantly to figure out, and part of this is because I do, and Kara knows this, but listeners and viewers, I do a lot of surveys with schools for the work that I do around equity. And a lot of times I'm asking a lot of highly sensitive questions that people are very reactive to. And they will let you know, because it's anonymous, it's encrypted, it's all the things, and they will unleash. And there are many, many people who are angry. And one of the things I've been trying to work really hard on, I saw Carlos, the founder of the Happy Givers, a nonprofit out of Puerto Rico. He's also a pastor, but yeah, Rodriguez. he shared and I shared his post earlier today on my IG. You can follow me at Spiritually Strategic. Kara's at Fawn River Beauty. But I shared his because he said, you know, you have to be careful that in the process of standing up for change and standing up for what you believe, you don't then dehumanize, quote unquote, the other in the process, because then we might turn into the very thing that we despise. And I think that always sticks out to me too, because just in general, sometimes the things we're triggered by are things that we actually don't know or hate about ourselves. It's just my own opinion. And that's sometimes why we get so triggered by certain things. One of the things that I've been really trying to figure out though is when I am working with partners and I see that like an entire school team, they're usually very like 50-50. Either they're very open and excited about having cultural discourse and dialogue, or they are like very angry about it and they don't think that it's needed in schools. Like teachers shouldn't have to have conversations about race. Like this is data from my surveys. So it can be very unnerving for me because I very much believe as a teacher, it's a responsibility and also a privilege and an honor that you get to impact a human's life. And I do think that it's part of our responsibility to know ourselves and to know our students. And what that means is we also need to understand what's happening in our culture from multiple perspectives. So that's my own kind of soapbox. If you're an educator, that's my belief. Like you shouldn't be teaching if you're not willing to learn about other perspectives. And that's very difficult for me to understand. But one of the things I've been working hard to try to understand then, because I'm going and I need to connect with all teams. I'm not presenting and telling you how to think or what to think. I'm asking questions to help people become more self-aware. That's my goal. But on that same token, I try hard to understand then what are you enraged about? So if that anger is coming from, for example, if that anger is coming adamantly from, and it's usually from white males that are part of the school teams I work with, where is that coming from? Right? Especially because let me just hang on. Let me just explain why. Because it's often a person who grew up in a middle class suburban life and seemingly hasn't had to deal with a lot of obstacles.
That's exactly what the rage comes from though, because I think there's a threat, or they feel there's a threat. There's always this idea that there's not enough of everything. No, a threat to not enough to go around, a lack mindset, and a belief that if somebody else has something, if somebody else has 5 cookies, then I can't have their 5 cookies. I actually want my 5 cookies plus your 5 cookies. Like, I think there's a general belief and a comfort there that is so comfortable, which we call, i.e. privilege, that we believe that somebody else having enough or more than enough is somehow taken away from our, or a threat to our life and what we can have in our life.
It's kind of like it's kind of like if you see if listeners or viewers, you see a Latino or African American person post something about white people and you automatically get defensive and say, but not all white people. But why do you feel the need to have to say that if it's not you? Why are you triggered by something if you don't, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of that same mentality. Like, why do you feel the need then to show your rage? If that's not your narrative.
I disagree with that because we aren't allowed to, like, white people are not allowed to say things like that about any other race. So I don't think it should be, I think it should be the same. Because if we're asking that people not use derogatory, inflammatory things, that, I mean, I feel like we should.
It wasn't derogatory. Her tweet, it was a person whose tweet.
Oh, you're talking about something.
Yeah, it's a tweet. Okay. It was a tweet I saw specifically, and it mentioned white folks. And a lot of the responses from white people were, but not all white people. not me. So it was almost like people were trying to like say, but not me, and be defensive about it.
But can people say black folks? Can white people say black folks?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have that approach no matter what, because I'm not saying that that person was correct in making a broad generalized statement, because that's very much a broad stereotype, and every person is an individual. That's what I believe to my core. So you have to get to know people and understand them, because let's be real, there's a lot of black people who supported Trump. There's a lot of black people who voted for Trump. So
more than ever, more than ever in the history of the Republican Party, there were more black people and Latinos that supported Trump than in the past.
And what I would also
in this
back
administration
on with your statement is, no, there is a double standard in some regards. In some regards, I'm okay with that, because in the form of, oh, well, other people aren't allowed. Yeah, because white folks have been allowed for years to create oppressive systems through government and politics and law. And
right. But what I'm saying, if we want to move forward, we can't keep saying, well, he did this.
None of us can make broad, like, oh, well, it's because it's all gay people. Well, it's because it's all poor people. It's all, and that's what we have to get away from, which is the very heart. If you have read the book, I know I referenced it earlier, but if you have read How to Be an Anti-Racist in particular, then his main message is an anti-racist sees individuals as individuals. And doesn't, and that is anti-racism at work, to say, I know you look this way, I'm not going to look at that as how I determine who you are.
Right.
That's based on your race, based on the color of your skin. No, I am going to see you as a human, regardless of if you are black, brown, tan, beige, white, purple, green, yellow, whatever.
Yep.
That's it. And so, yes, I agree with the sense that all of us need to stop making a lot of generalized, unless you are sharing, like I did just recently write an article, but it was based on survey research of people who are white and their networks, and how many people actually interact with people of color in a daily basis in their personal life. But I cited reference and fact and research in different reports. So that's the other thing, like it goes back to, again, how you're determining to engage with people, and why are you believing and saying the things that you are.
Whoopsies.
What? Oh, what?
Oh my goodness.
What?
I literally moved like 10 feet.
No, now you're
to get to my charger again.
But now I can actually see your video. Well, any other thoughts on that? All, I think, good points. And
I just think, just to be in the present moment. And I think there's too much going on about return to the good old days, and also like, oh my gosh, this is so scary, what's happening in the future. You know, I think we just have to deal with the minute that we're in, and I don't know any other way to do it. I didn't used to say that because it was easier to look to the past and look to the future, because I think all of us are in enough distress at this minute. We do just need to be in the present. Anxiety levels that are at a peak right now for most people. So it's not necessary. I mean, literally, if I'm just sitting here, I'm breathing, my heart's beating, everything's fine.
And also, again, same thing. Things only enrage you as much as you allow them to enrage you. I mean, so it goes back to, like, even when you read an article or you see a news story, or you take one of my surveys or whatever, like, you have to ask yourself, why am I not okay with just engaging with this and not have, like, I intentionally watched multiple news outlets, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, some YouTubers. Like, I watched multiple people talking about the same stuff with the election, because I personally wanted to hear what was being said across all the outlets. Does it mean I trust any news outlet definitively? No. But I also intentionally did that to also push my own thinking and my own comfort zone, because why am I going to say, well, if it's conservative or if it's liberal, I'm not going to listen to it? And why would that trigger me or enrage me so much just to hear a different viewpoint?
I don't know. Because again, back to, it's a threat to my identity if I don't get to hold on to this belief. And that causes a lot of anxiety for people. But people can hold on to their belief. That's fine.
Yeah,
it's just
not a threat to
in
your
our country.
identity. Your identity is what you decide it is.
For some people, though, I think that it is, because their identity is wrapped up in
politics or religion.
Well, yeah. Or certain beliefs around all of that. You know?
Fascinating.
So we started with makeup.
Sorry, I was just trying to think. No, I was honestly, do you want to honestly know what I was just thinking? I was honestly thinking about the clip of that guy who had on the cutoff shirt in Nevada's news like press update, and with the county, I think it's county clerk or county somebody he was addressing, and he was so exhibiting being
Biden crime family.
Yeah.
Biden crime family.
But this guy, enraged, he had
election.
cut off t-shirt. It literally said beer, barbecue, and freedom, and is just enraged on live television. And so the guy, I kind of give the props to the guy who was reporting, the county clerk, because he just pauses, he turns, he allows the news media to film it, because you can't make this up. And he just says, okay, getting back to business. Like, as soon as the guy walks out, he just is so calm and collected. But that is a perfect representation of how we all need to be operating. But honestly, what was going through my mind when you were saying that, I was literally thinking, how would that guy choose to share his identity? So if we were to sit down and talk with the beer, barbecue, and freedom guy, how would he be able to articulate, hey, my name's Bob, and I'm just making up, I don't know his name. Hey, my name's Bob, and this is my identity. Like, how many of us haven't ever done inner child work or identity work? And if you haven't, then that is informed by your pastor or a political party or right, any number of things, or by your job, right? Or when people say, I'm just hardworking, just a regular guy. But what does that mean? That means that you don't actually have a clear concept of your own identity. You just feel like you're not, like you don't stand out. You're not an individual.
Well, I think everybody is. It's just if you choose.
No, I do too. But I'm just saying that makes so much. I'm sorry, I'm like having an epiphany. That makes so much sense as to then why you feel enraged when it's a collective that's attacked, meaning like a political party or your church or your pastor, because your identity is wrapped up in actually what somebody else has told you your identity is.
And fear in a lot of cases.
Yeah. You've allowed other people to actually dictate your world and your identity and what's important to you, instead of actually establishing that for yourself. So right. Yes, of course you're going to be angry when that gets attacked, because that's what you're rooted in. Versus if I'm rooted solely in God and Jesus Christ and knowing myself and what I believe, then that's really no amount of that can phase you, and you're confident in it, like, sorry, I'm just thinking out loud because I literally got a picture of him in my mind, and I'm thinking, well, how would that guy describe his identity? And he did on his shirt, beer, barbecue, and freedom. Oh, are you there? Kara. All right. Sorry, listeners. Kara's phone died. Okay. So basically, to kind of wrap us up, sorry. I think I just want to say, if you're listening or watching this and you yourself are grappling with identity, a lot of times, you know, that rage, I'm going to quote Eckhart Tolle again. I'm just quoting him all over the place today. But he also says, whatever you think the world is withholding from you, you are withholding from the world. And so I think sometimes that rage, specifically, I'm going to speak to the white male populace who tends to be very angry. And a lot of times white females who are on the same bandwagon, or they are fighting to actually minimize themselves and be like super submissive, right, to your husbands and head of household and all that kind of talk, right? It's another deeper conversation for another day. But what I think you don't know, because there's no firm identity, and because we've tried to create this country where, quote unquote, we're all Americans, that's precisely like the reason why, especially white people, they don't, a lot of them do not, they're not connected with identities. We are not connected with deeper identities. I think we've had a beautiful advantage because we are part Puerto Rican. So like there has been that knowingness of having two different backgrounds from our parents. Like we've always been drawn to wanting to learn about both sides of our family. And that was very prevalent in our family. And that's a gift, because like I've realized over the years, especially with white friends, how many do not have a pride, and it doesn't even have to be pride, just a clear understanding of where their lineage came from, right? And how they're connected to this earth and how that happened. And that's both negatives and positives. And that can be regardless of any countries of origin that your bloodlines have. There are positives and negatives to every doggone country, culture, cove, everything in the world. So let's not get that twisted, but that is precisely, like, there is no common identity for white Americans other than to try to grapple and hang on to, quote unquote, being American. And the reality is, unless you have clarity of your identity, not just from an ethnicity and race standpoint, but all assets, then you're going to be enraged, and you're going to think the world is withholding from you or is out to get you, because you don't know how to show up in the world, right? And you don't have that identity clarified. And the other thing that Eckhart Tolle says is, what a liberation to realize that, quote unquote, the voice in my head is not who I am. Who am I then? The one who sees that. So what he's talking about, liberation and freedom, I love the word liberation. And the word for freedom in Spanish is libertad, rightfully so. So when you look at that, it's like, if I haven't even gotten alone with the voice in my head and the narrative and the stories that I tell myself, or that my ego's telling myself sometimes, then I don't really know who I am. And the person I truly am is when I can step outside myself and see, wait. That's just something I've been telling myself since I was a child because XYZ happened.
I think the only thing we can really do is stay in touch with God. I mean, for me, that's been vital this entire time, because this is an ugly, ugly season. The last few months have been, but it's also been a beautiful season.
Sarah. Part of that's taking action. I don't want to minimize the hard interpersonal and inner child work that you and I have put in, because that I would be lying if I just said, well, I wouldn't be lying. The truth is that every day is a miracle by the grace of God that I'm here. That's how I see life. And that's why I treasure every moment as much as I possibly can. However, that's not to say that there isn't a requirement to understand and know thyself. God reveals things to us, but he also has provided tools like therapy, like books, like journals, and things that we can take and be proactive with. Sorry, just wanted to add, I know you believe that too, but
Right.
just wanted to clarify that you weren't minimizing that there's also hard work, and it isn't just something that we say, but stay connected to God and you'll be good. Because there are many people right now who are saying that they are very connected to God and then also praising oppressive practices. So
Yeah. I just have to remind myself every morning when I wake up that I can only be the person that I am in the moment. Like, and so if I go about life and I bring joy to other people and love other people, and I can do that moment to moment, then that's a representation of who God is through me. But if I fail, I also am going to be picked back up by the grace of God, and used in even more powerful ways because I learned a lesson from my failure. So I think we just have to remember that we're not meant to stay the same. I think that's my biggest takeaway from this whole season. Be in touch with yourself, be in touch with God. You were not meant to stay the same.
Well, ratata.
That is an inside joke.
Does anybody, if you understand that reference, comment below. We hope you enjoyed this episode. This is episode 48 of the oh Lord, help us. Of the Sunflower Society podcast. We are sisters, the Gonzalez sisters, Kara and Justine. You can follow Kara at Fawn River Beauty on Instagram, and I am at Spiritually Strategic. Our small IG page, Spiritually Strategic _co. We also put out information there. So again, those are the best places, honestly. There and our YouTube channel are the best places to see updates regarding our podcast or new things we're putting out. But again, go check out that form, Dear Blabby Questions. It's just a bit.ly link, and we both have it in our bio on our Instagrams. Again, you can go to bit.ly/Dear Blabby Questions. But send us those burning questions for sure. It was fun to talk about some of them that we've received today and give you all a sneak peek. But I know that we're going to continue to get some that are really, I hope, asking questions about identity and asking questions about how to handle these really tough situations that arise in our life, and that you don't have to be alone and do it alone. And I know during this season, many, many, many people have felt very alone, and you're not alone. But you also can feel safe and secure that your identity is not going to be compromised. And you get to at least put the questions out there, and they can be funny, burning, confessional, whatever you prefer. So, okay, sister, this has been.
Sorry you guys can't see my face, but.
Well, we saw you get ready, so that's enough. We saw you in your natural element, and we saw the transformation. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, are you ever
all right,
my challenge? I have to talk a little smack before we.
I forgot about it, to be honest with you. Yes, I will.
This is me reminding you in front of listeners. And
I haven't made the best coffees lately for some reason. It's been, I got grounds in the coffee yesterday. It's been a little disastrous.
This makes me, in this present moment, this makes me very sad for you.
I know. It is sad. And then I was out of good coffee for 5 days. So it just hasn't been a source of enjoyment lately. But I'm working on it. I'm working on that.
What's the best cup of coffee you've ever had?
Probably when I was in the Dominican.
Yeah.
For sure. They had coffee at 3:00 every day. And it was so good and so much sugar. It was unbelievable.
Azúcar. Okay. Well, thank you again for tuning in. This has been episode 48 of the Sunflower Society podcast. Bye, sister.
Bye, sister.